Well, hello, Toronto. Oh, so good to see you. Oh, let me just, oh, yeah. Toronto, Canada, my hometown, by the way. I'm your host for the whole weekend, all 4 days. Today's day one. My name is Jarrett Kale. If you don't know that already, if you're a complete noob, that's who I am. I walked here. This is my home. I love it. And I'm so happy that the Intel Extreme Masters is here for the first time in 5 years. How many of you guys are esports virgins? Have you been here before? Have you been to an event like this before and watched live competitive gaming? Are you all virgins here? Was it like 2 dudes that have seen it before? All right, sweet. But I am actually here, so we can interact, we can talk. I'm not a screen. You might be used to, some of you, only screens, I don't know. I'm a real dude, man. But no, man, this is a crazy tournament, actually. It's only StarCraft, which is how it should be, right? The best game ever. We watch the best game ever together, and we cheer. And it's a pretty special StarCraft tournament because we kind of have the tournament so stacked with the best players in the whole world. It's actually ridiculously stacked. We have the #1 WCS player, HuK. We have MC, the boss Toss, very close to $500,000 in earnings. We have 3 homegrown heroes, which if you don't know, these are the people you got to cheer extra, extra, super duper loud for, which is Massa, HuK, and Scarlet. So, yeah. So make sure when they're on that you give them a lot of love, right? Cool. Let's see what else we got here. We got the BlizzCon World Champ SOS is here, and there's a guy I have a crush on, J-Dong. He's here. Arguably the sexiest pro gamer that's ever been, right? She knows. I know too. And then of course there's this little pro gamer. In Korea they call him God. And I don't know if you go way back and you're old like me. I've been watching him for a long time play Brood War. But we have Flash here as well, who is on a crazy tear right now, by the way. He's got a very low chance to qualify for the Worlds in BlizzCon. I think like 7% or something Paul worked out. But if he wins IEM, he's got a really good chance of going. And I think he's like 50-6 or something in his last like 56 games. Like he is literally just crushing nerds left and right. So I'm super stoked to see that, all right? So I think that's it right there, seated, and he keeps looking at me funny. That's Carmack. Put your hand up, Carmack, and everyone can say hi. He's the reason we're here. Well, him and me is why they're here. So yeah, everyone's playing. The total prize pool is $25,000. Winner takes $10,000. Not bad for 4 days' work being worshipped by you guys, which is pretty cool. So before we get to the games, though, I'm going to throw it over to our expert couch. That's what it's called now, hosted by my lovely friend Paul, who's joined by a couple of experts, and they're waiting to talk to you. So have fun, Paul.
Thank you very much. Yes, Jarrett Kale there on the stage, everyone, and great to have the owner in the house here in his hometown of Toronto as well. Alongside me here at the couch, I'm not quite sure what we're going to call this expert area, but we do have 2 bona fide experts with me. It is Apollo and Le Todd. I have to carry on the Kevin Rotterdam stuff, but otherwise he gets upset. I have to keep calling you. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
I'm a little bit jet lagged still, a little bit tired.
Okay.
Just flew in yesterday.
We'll blow that cobweb away very quickly.
When the games start, I'm going to wake up.
Yeah.
But you've been here for like a month already, right?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. I'm loving Toronto, actually. It's my first time here.
Me too.
I'm really impressed by the city. I think it's really nice here.
Yeah, the weird thing is, I've never been to Canada before. Of all the places we've been all over the world, I've never been here. But in the last 24 hours, it's one of the happiest places I've ever been. It's great. I have no idea how these people are so friendly, but they are. They're terrific. So I'm really looking forward to the next 4 days. We're going to start off today with the open bracket. We're going to move into the groups tomorrow. So whilst there are 12 players waiting in that bracket, we'll talk about them later on today when we know who's joining them. But first, the open brackets. Open bracket 1 and open bracket 2, they're going to be played simultaneously. So for those of you at home, you'll be able to see some of the games. Rotterdam's covering some of the games, and we're doing some on stage right here in Toronto. We'll kick off with open bracket 1, as I said. J-Dong versus Bones, Leenock versus HuK, Oz versus Hendrilisk, another hometown boy, and Kane versus Bunny. These open brackets are not easy, Apollo.
Not at all. These are players, only 2 of them unfortunately can make it through that 8 set of players that we have there. And there are potentials everywhere. I mean, to be honest, anyone on a good day could go all the way through there.
Let's talk about hometown, players, HuK in particular, stands out in that group. We know he's a former champion, former MLG double champion. Hasn't really done much in the last few years in terms of the Premier tournaments, but this year he's had a 3rd and 4th at Atlanta. He's also won a couple of minor tournaments as well. So has he got his mojo back? Is he ready to go through a tough bracket like this, Todd?
You know, he's been doing well overall, but even stylistically, he's been playing a lot more macro games than we used to see out of him. Been playing a little bit less aggressive in the early games. So especially against Zerg, that's why I think that against Leenock, he has a very, very good shot at winning here in the first match. So that's going to make things very interesting just to think about that. And since he's going to be our opener, it's going to be great.
Yeah. Favourite two that stand out for you, Sean? Are you thinking Jae-Dong in now? Even though he's had a rough road in the last few weeks?
He's definitely having a difficult time, and it's going to be very hard for him to qualify into the main part of the tournament. But for me, Jae-Dong, you can't not go against him, right? You kind of have to. So I say Jae-Dong. And I have a feeling Oz, but I would love to see Bunny go through.
Okay, I was going to ask Todd, actually. Bunny, great performance at Gfinity. Finally won a big event. It wasn't quite classed as a Premier event, which I still think is a nonsense. But nevertheless, he won that tournament outright by beating very good Korean players. He's got to do it again here, though, to prove that wasn't a fluke, hasn't he?
Yeah, Bunny's only weakness, TVT. Not a single tier in his brackets.
Absolutely. And
he
has
to make it through.
Yeah, and Maro's not here now. Which is kind of nice for him.
Yeah.
In a way.
Oh, it's nice for everyone.
Dodge a bullet here.
Well, I wanted Maru here, so, I'm actually disappointed. I know Snoot is actually disappointed as well. We're going to take a look at open bracket number 2 in just a moment, which Snoot will be part of. I spoke to him early on, and I said, it's quite nice, isn't it? No Maru there now. And he's like, no, actually, I would love to have had Maru in there. So disappointing that he's not there. But we do have an all-star lineup in that open bracket too. Stardust versus Life is the first game that Rotterdam is going to cast. I think he's going to lose his voice in the first match of the day, I think. Park versus Revival. CJ Hero, the only double winner of an Intel Extreme Masters, versus Desroy. What a baptism of fire that is in his home country. And Chaos versus Snoot. I kind of feel a bit sorry for Desroy in there. That's a tough opening game. And if it wasn't Hero, it would have been Maru anyway.
Yeah, he was.
Who's being cruel with the draw?
He was doomed either way there. I think that's a massive draw, unfortunately, for Desroy, and it's going to be a very difficult game. Hero's amazing. He's one of the best Protoss players in the world. It's going to be a very, very difficult task.
Since he won Sao Paulo, he's not won anything else this year. You could argue that he's in the toughest league in the world, in the GSL. He's also in Pro League. He's often known as the second best player in Pro League this season. He's had a terrific season still, but
yeah.
He needs another big win, I feel. He needs another IEM on his CV. A third would be unprecedented.
Wow, it would be a magical thing for him to have happen here. It's going to be hard, though. As good as CJ Hero is, winning this tournament is going to be one of the most difficult things that anyone's done in a very long time.
Yeah, definitely a big stack tournament. Who's your favourite two out of this? This is much harder to pick, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like the lower part of this bracket was very straightforward, whereas the upper part, starting with Stardust versus Life, it's dead. Even we've seen Stardust play himself, kind of like HuK, actually. Yeah. Some very good micro games. Just a few days ago in Detroit against Zerg, he had some very long games. I guess maybe Stardust, in a good day, Stardust can beat anybody.
Yeah, Life is a similar kind of phenomenon in a way. The 17-year-old, it's still 17, incredibly. It seems to have been 17 for about 4 years, but he's won an IEM before, one in New York last year. We all remember it was such a memorable tournament for him, but hasn't really done much since. Again, another player, a bit similar to some of the other players in the bracket, really. They've kind of had ups and downs over the last 12 months. Where do you see Life right now in terms of form?
I think that he can surprise at this tournament, to be honest. Life is a player who, yes, comes at tournaments sometimes and doesn't play very well and just gets eliminated quite early, but at the Intel Extreme Masters Shenzhen, the last stop that we went to, he played a really, really good tournament there. And unfortunately lost versus Teju, went on to win the whole thing anyway. Yep. I think Life is a guy that could surprise a lot. Okay,
thank you very much, gentlemen. For now, we're going to take a break from the couch. We are going to get ready for our first match in just a moment. But before we go there, and before we introduce you to the opening two players on the stage, we have a commercial break. Now, normally, I wouldn't make a fuss about commercials, but trust me, you'll want to see this one.
All right. That's a pretty good commercial, huh? You wish that was you. Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto. Hi, everyone at home. Didn't say hi to you earlier. Just because I don't look at you doesn't mean I don't love you. I do. Are you guys ready for your first game? That's good. You guys are awesome. I love you very much. All right. Our first player, he comes from a little place called Ontario in a little country called Canada. I want you to scream and shout until we work this out, all right? His name is HuK. Give it up. And his opponent traveled here from around the other side of the globe, a little place called Seoul, Korea. You probably recognize him. His name is Leenock. All right, and before we get this started, we're going to get the opinions of our super duper experts and Paul.
He made a funny there, didn't he? He did do a funny. That was a funny attempt by Mr. Jarrett Kale there. Yes, I am rejoined by our experts, Paulo and Todd, for our first game. It's hometown hero time. They shine sometimes on home soil. We've seen it in other games. We've seen it in other tournaments. Can it be the same for HuK here?
It's going to be difficult to do so.
We call that a teeth drawing moment.
Do we? There may be many of those this weekend with the players that we have. I'm not sure. This is going to be a very difficult series for him, a very difficult task. I think that he could take a map, but taking the series is going to be a stretch.
Okay.
Why are you so harsh with HuK?
Yeah,
He's really good
Hey,
against Zerg.
I know. I like HuK a lot. He's actually been... I was talking about it before with you guys. I was saying that HuK doesn't quite get the appreciation that he should get, as he's actually a very good player, and he plays well. He actually gets a lot of big wins against a lot of big names, and he loses to even bigger names. So the times that he does lose, though, it's like, oh, well, HuK's still not performing as well as he did in 2011 when he won every single tournament he went to. But he's still very good at playing StarCraft, and I do give him credit to that, and I think he can take a map, but I don't think he can take the series.
Okay, Todd, Leenock's another one of those Korean players that we all know and love. We know what they've done in the past, and we're respectful of that, but he's another guy that's kind of not really done much in the last couple of years, and you're kind of waiting for him to break out. It's a bit like MMA. We were talking about WCS, waiting for that big thing to happen. MC was another one, another 2-year gap before a big championship. Where's Leenock's coming? Is it this one? Is it something else in the future? I mean...
I'm not sure. You know, it's funny because back in Valencia, I was saying the same as you just said, and then out of nowhere, he started playing super well. He just crushed people left and right and made it very far. So no, I'm not sure which Leenock's going to show up, but no matter which one shows up, I really feel like HuK has come a long way against Zerg. He's playing a lot more macro-orientated style. He's not afraid to take it to the late game. And I'm going to say HuK is going to win 2-0.
Oof. That is a bold statement. That is big.
A 2-0 win for HuK. That's what Todd's saying right now. I can see the Reddit threads already.
The funny thing is, I'll tell you after.
Right,
I was going to say something then, but...
No, go on. Throw it out.
Todd said that
right.
because if it doesn't happen, everyone's like, yeah, well, Leenock was going to win anyway. Right. But if it does happen...
he looks like a genius.
He looks like a genius.
I'm
calling you out on that.
I'm with you, Mr.
You with
Apollo.
me?
Yeah.
Cheeky devil,
what's your prediction then?
2-1 Leenock.
I'm going with Sean, frankly.
2-1 Leenock?
We are ready for map vetoes. They are incoming already. We've seen Dead Wing removed and merry-go-round so far. Any thoughts on these maps? Because they've played quite a critical role in the last set of games, especially in WCS matches. It's really starting to tell now as to which map pools you end up going with, and it can dictate the flow of the game.
Merry-go-round, I understand. Foxtrot Labs, I guess, like it's kind of hard to wall off at the natural. Takes kind of forever. A lot of fallings can be good. And remember, he's up against Leenock, one of the Zergs that can play very aggressive, can mix in some good links, Zergling, speed all in, even speedless sometimes back in the days.
It's hard to stop those type of attacks. What do you think about Deadwing, though, from Leenock? Wanting to keep HuK away from easily accessing 3 bases here? Or?
Yeah, or 3 or even 4 bases, which on this map is rather easy to do compared to most other maps. Then again, there was actually a few maps like this. It's kind of like Alter Zim, Deadwing, where you either love it or hate it.
Yeah, that's a great starting map though for this series.
Usually the 3 maps we see most often is Overgrowth, King Sejong Station, and then it depends on players. Sometimes Catalina, we're gonna see Catalina. So I guess fairly standard map for a PvZ.
I mean, Overgrowth's become the Frost of the recent season, hasn't it? literally picked
Yes.
every single time.
Well,
But it wasn't. If you remember back, if you go back 3 seasons ago, Frost was never played.
I wouldn't say it's picked every time. I think it's just not vetoed at all,
Yeah.
ever. No one vetoed.
But it doesn't need to be.
Have you ever seen anyone veto Overgrowth?
I don't think so.
No,
It's probably
and it doesn't need to be. For
0%.
any race.
Yeah, it's
None of
just
the
a
races.
great all-round map.
Okay, final thoughts on these two players. And we should explain as well, quarterfinals, semi-finals, and if you win your semi-finals, then you're through to the upper bracket. The winner of that upper bracket is auto-qualified, but we do have a lower bracket as well. It's not straight single elimination. And there are 2 brackets going on simultaneously. That's the other thing we should explain.
Yeah.
Some of the games you'll be able to cover, or follow rather, on Rotterdam's coverage. He will be covering the Life versus Stardust game, for instance, while we concentrate on Leenock versus HuK here on the main stage in Toronto. So hopefully you'll have a feast full of day, or half a day as it is now here in Toronto, because we're getting on for 4:15 local time. I know it's 10:15 in Europe, 9:15 in the UK, and currently 1:15 in LA. Look at me with the time zones.
Red Eye's wearing 7 watches. I think to the last couple of words before we get into this, the most important part here for Leenock is to scout HuK. I mean, we all know that HuK's a very dangerous guy. He likes to do lots of aggressive plays. And even if he's playing greedy, it still comes down to scouting. If Leenock sees what HuK's doing at all times, that's where he's going to be most comfortable.
Okay, Todd?
I think the secret in HuK's chances to win here is going to be in reacting properly, because I don't feel that there is a high chance he's going to go very aggressive. He's been playing a lot more passive, macro-orientated. So it's going to be for him to scout Leenock. Also, it's kind of the same way around. And if he's able to know exactly what he's up against, be it a Spire or something like that, because Leenock's going to be the one to try and get into HuK's face at all times.
All right.
If HuK can react properly the same way, but even more importantly for him, I think he's going to win. Because I really think it's going to be Leenock who tries to set the pace with aggression.
And you think that may backfire?
I mean, if HuK gets a lot of Blink Stalkers and, somehow holds the initial aggressions and all that, and then he finds himself in a position where he has the critical mass he needs, from there he's just so good. He makes all the transitions perfectly. And but Leenock is so good at aggression. Like, I mean, his chance is going to be in the mid game to make something happen, to attack here and there with the roaches, flying with the mutas, do all that.
Right, well, players are almost ready, and Leenock's smiling now. Let's find out whether he's smiling at the end of this best of 3 against the local hero. Your commentary team for our opening game are my fellow Englishmen, Nathanius and Kalaris.
Hey guys, I'm Kyle Laris, and this is the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto.
And I'm Kalaris, and this is the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto. I'm very excited for today's games.
So am I. We're opening things up with HuK versus Leenock, as a lot of people are looking at this and saying, on paper, Leenock is the big favorite. But from my perspective, when we see HuK actually playing in PvZ, he had to play WCS recently, in a group where he was against Revival and Violet, kind of lost out to Violet, but it beat Revival, and also recently at Destiny 1, he actually beat Violet 2-1, so I don't think this is as clear-cut as some people are saying.
Yeah, I have to completely agree with you. When we look at PvZ from the top American Protosses at least, names that come to mind, HuK, Puck, both players with incredible Protoss versus Zerg. Solid PvPs, don't rely quite as much on the PvT, but fortunately for HuK especially, there's very low chance he's going to have to play a lot of Terrans to get out. I'm not even sure if he's on the same side of the bracket as Bunny.
Yeah. The thing is, again, HuK here, he has the crowd behind him. He has a good opportunity here to make an upset happen, I think, because people are just kind of underestimating him a little bit going into this. But it's certainly going to be close, because Leenock is the kind of guy that does turn up to tournaments and sometimes kind of bombs out a little bit as of recent form. But if you look back at his most recent performance, being Valencia, 3rd and 4th place, I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
No, definitely can't. Leenock, we know, has been very good for a very long time, playing for a Taiwanese team, practicing, of course, there. And he's been one of the scariest players, I think, when you go back maybe a little bit longer. Of course, I think one of the last big times that we saw him get to that championship level was at IPL 5, of course, still in the Wings of Liberty era. He hasn't had quite the same amount of success in Heart of the Swarm, but still a very good player, I think, either way.
All right, so now just getting ready for this game. The thing is that Leenock overall, I'm not going to go on the wild assumption that he does practice exclusively with his teammates, because people do make that assumption sometimes, and unless it's Kesper, that's not necessarily true. But if he does practice with his teammates, let's think about who that is. San. San, a very, very lethal Protoss when it comes to going up against Zerg. So if Leenock does have a good wealth of knowledge when it comes to the matchup, practicing against a guy like him who can bring aggression, can go for the macro game as well, I think Leenock overall is very, very powerful.
Yeah, and I think we look at this this match, of course, there's some other cool stuff going on, of course. I think we even have the fantasy set up for this tournament as well. If you guys want to go to fantasy.esl.com, you can pick, I know the ESL guys started doing this for WCS, you can pick which players you want to make a deep run in this tournament. Always cool to score some nice internet points.
Yeah, that's true. I picked 3 people and then all of a sudden realized they were all extremely expensive in the Fantasy League and had to kind of stick with that. So, out of 4. So
you can't just pick the top 4 players that are going to win. That's cheating the fantasy system.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, I think so. But anyway, we're getting loaded up into game number 1 here for the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto. So let's give it up for the player spawning up to the top right. It's our blue Protoss. Give it up for HuK.
The Canadian himself, of course. He's got had a lot of the crowd behind him.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Again, I think that's a real kickstart for him going into this game. Let's find out as we have our bottom left corner spawning as our red Zerg. It is Leenock.
Representing the Taiwanese team, Yoey Flash Wolves, Leenock has been one of those guys that you definitely put on the scarier list of Korean Zergs to get put up against, especially in open bracket tournaments like this. He has the lethality to get very far, and there's, I think, a very big mistake if anybody underestimates him moving on.
Yeah, that's certainly true. All right, Overgrowth is our first map, as we can see here. Those guys on the couch nailed it exactly. We see this map a lot. Very, very rarely, if ever, vetoed. And both of them have a good wealth of experience on this map by now. It's probably one of the oldest in the map pool right now.
Yeah, just about surviving in from the last season. Now, HuK, at the start of this game, has decided to open up with a Forge. As a standard, comfortable map, this can be one of the ones where you expect standard play, which can be hatch first, of course. Leenock is showing us he has no interest in standard play, Kalaris. He's going to take his first base across the map.
All right. You guys said it. All right, so I've got to say, Nathanius, looking at this already, isn't this obviously an extremely aggressive move from Leenock? To have a hatchery there, it's got to be super aggressive. Reinforcement straight away.
I haven't seen too many players take their opponent's gold base and then play a long game out of it.
Yeah.
And I've had the pleasure of seeing Cats play a lot of games. I know this can be a very deadly style to deal with. Here's the problem. HuK's probe is dancing around. HuK is, right now, he's very focused. This tournament means a lot to him as a Canadian playing in his home country. And he's completely focused on a regular game. So we can say, yeah, this is cool, he's denying a hatchery, but Leenock, in the back of his mind, is thinking, yeah, I really don't care if you put a pylon, if your probe dances around here until the end of time, because I don't need this base. My base is next to your base.
And that was really good dancing there, actually allowing the shields to regenerate so that it can go and block as well. But he has to now think, well, why were you chasing me around the minerals? You could have put the hatchery down here. So yeah. What is going on?
This should be signaling alarms in HuK's mind. He's like, well, usually the Zerg player just barely gets that hatchery started before it gets blocked again. Now, the Overlord for Leenock doesn't see anything crazy from HuK. He has his gateway on the way. He built his cannon first just so that he would be safe since there wasn't a hatchery. But now HuK has to start asking questions, and the probe is making its way towards where that gold base is. He should see this creep and realize, uh-oh.
All right, he's got to now prepare. He's got to prepare for something a little bit more wacky in this game. And HuK is the kind of guy that's pretty methodical about his gameplay. So he's going to anticipate some kind of aggression coming along. There was already speed started just then, but did he cancel it? He just cancelled it and restarted it again.
So there is speed starting up now. I'm surprised he didn't try to send more drones over. He doesn't want to get too much time lost mining by transferring them across the map, but he's still going to build a reasonable number at this gold base. So He's just building this up, and he wants to use the extra mineral income that he gets from the gold mineral patches to build more fighting units, more Zerglings than he otherwise normally would.
Yeah, and overall this is as efficient as Leenock can get, really, considering the position he's in, because he had 16 on minerals in his main base for that entire duration, and then he's now just rallying over to the gold, making sure it's okay. But look at this. HuK is already reacting to what he's seen. He has cannons on the way, and at the front of the wall is incredibly interesting.
So this is a very important play by HuK. The majority of the time, a Zerg player, when they do this, they want to use the speedlings. Sometimes they'll push creep tumors across where the rocks are, and they'll break the rocks down so that they can place spine crawlers in front of the Protoss wall. Of course, the spine crawlers will destroy the wall much faster than the Zerglings will. But by putting the cannons here, HuK is basically saying, you actually can't put anything here. Normally, the gateway is within range of the spine crawlers before the photon cannon's in range to defend. So this is just a smart way of HuK not being vulnerable to any spine crawler-based play. But we can see that's not exactly what Leenock's going for.
Yeah, that's very, very clever. But also, I was anticipating maybe the opportunity for him to go roaches, so those cannons at the front would deny those roaches from having the range over the wall at the front, like the gateway, the forge, etc. But considering now that he's going for layer with extra gases, is this him like moving towards some kind of Hydralist play or something?
I mean, he's got quite a few options. When you're this close to your opponent, I don't think
there's the Roach
anything
Warren.
like Swarm Host server bad. I think a Roach Warren could also be for safety, because at this point, HuK's probe has had enough time to get out on the map, and he could, you know, throw on a pylon and try to get some zealots around. And these Zerglings finding this probe are certainly going to keep Leenock a little bit on edge. However, HuK does have 3 gases mining. He's adding on a good number of gateways, so he's going to try to get aggressive against this, since Leenock, despite moving across the map, didn't do anything with it yet. And if he kills this gold base, Leenock is effectively mining off of just 1.
Yeah, +1 range on the way. No doubt Roach speed will start very, very quickly off that Roach Warren being finished, because, well, there we go. It's on the way as well. He's going to have so much mobility in front of this base with the creep pressed up against it so hard. And ultimately, HuK now is trying to solve a problem that very few players really have to deal with. So a lot of what he's doing here, yeah, maybe he's played a few games against this here and there, but the pro's been spotted down to the bottom right as well, so Leenock should be able to prepare if any kind of weird counterattacks are going to happen after seeing all these gateways as well.
Yeah, he does have a pylon on the bottom right side, has not been spotted yet. Probe's going to place another one. The Zerglings are hunting for it, though, since the Overlord saw the gates. Like you said, he kind of knows what's coming. He just needs to defend and prepare, but he misses the pylon on the right side. He'll find the pylon on the left, which is good for Leenock, but there's still an opportunity for HuK to warp in pretty close to him. Now, the sentries and zealots are going to move across towards where this gold base is, but even with zealots, it's going to take a little while to cut through these rocks.
Yeah, Burrow on the way here as well for Leenock.
And roaches are on the way too, so just Zealot Sentry is not going to cut it just yet for HuK.
Yeah, tons of roaches coming out here at this point, as, well, does defend a little bit over there. Still trying to kill off those pylons down to the bottom right if he ends up finding them. Did kill the one off down to the bottom, at the very extreme bottom, but now Immortals are on the way. So this is going to make it a little bit harder for roaches, but the numbers of roaches is going to be quite high, considering he had so much power behind that gold base initially.
Yeah, it's a simple income boost for having the same amount of workers. If you look at the income tab, you can see that he's pulling in quite a few resources more than HuK. Now, if he can get those Immortals out, well, tries to hit the sentries. Force fields are solid. We'll lose one of his sentries, but not too many of the roaches should be able to squeeze through. Oh, no. Well, he does get through. He's forced to use a time warp, and Leenock getting very aggressive.
HuK was equally very aggressive outside of his base here. He should have been waiting for him to greet this, because he lost a lot of sentries in that. It's going to be harder to hold on against that. Even if he wants to replenish those, that's a lot of gas investment into it. A few more force fields go down to try and hold this off, but the roaches are right on top of this army.
He's done a really good job of focusing on the sentries, preventing HuK from getting any sort of sustain in the engagements. All he has is this Immortal, and well, yeah, an Immortal's going to kill roaches. There's simply too many roaches to hold all of this away forever.
Too many roaches, too many reinforcements, and they're coming through thick and fast. As they're on the doorstep, they're easily able to get there, bringing down that one more cannon. Because he has Burrow as well, if he actually just wanted to do that, he could happily do that. There's really not a whole lot here for HuK. He's trying to hold on desperately, and that one Immortal is being a champion holding on behind that, and does survive for now. 12 kills.
That bad boy's been putting in some hours, but the thing is, even if HuK has the Immortal alive, he still has to really grind this one out. I love the Zealot Harass being warped in. He's managed to keep his probe on the other side of the map alive. But the biggest issue is that without sentries, without a lot of energy banked up on these sentries, HuK will have a hard time moving out with his Immortals, because the roaches will just get on top of his gateway armies and focus down those key units like the Immortals.
Burrow movement now enters the fray as well. So the one observer with this army is extremely important. Obviously, it can't easily die because there is really nothing that's going to be hitting up, but he has to keep that with his army at all times. There are so many roaches out, 26. 10 more are going to be entering the battlefield in just a little bit. And HuK is up against it because his army isn't that strong. It's all about how those force fields are going to go down and hold it back.
Yeah, I mean, these Immortals have the power to be real big playmakers. There's an observer with the army, so the Burrow move shouldn't have a factor too much. But if he's willing to lose some roaches, he can still move up and try to get behind this either way. It's really nice that he has the observer where you could almost instantly lose the game to a play like the Burrow move.
If he keeps doing that, if he keeps forcing his opponent to throw down those force fields and then burrowing away and builds up extra roaches, eventually the sentries would run out, but it would take a while considering how many he has and how many he keeps warping in. So Sentry Immortal is the absolute gutbuster of this army. If HuK can keep holding on, keep accruing this army as best as he can, he might stand a chance.
I mean, it's a very powerful army. +2 attacks about to finish up for Leenock. Oh, he's actually just going to go in for it. Burrowing onto the force field, steps up, and 2 of the Immortals actually still held back a little bit. The first one will fall. Only one of them's really tucked in that nicely now as the roaches continue to move to the left side. Both Immortals exposed, and these units should die. The Burrow will allow him to escape from those force fields.
But the composition of HuK is so clever because he's saying that, yes, if you want to burrow through and get on top of my roaches, I had a lot of zealots there that would be whacking away at you. And obviously roaches don't want to be being hit by zealots at all. So he is kind of holding on still a little bit, but there's still so many roaches on the way, and getting those Immortals, as you said, they're the big playmakers, right? Bringing down those numbers will eventually win out an attrition war here for Leenock.
Yeah, as cost-effective as Immortals can be, HuK needs to start making some big plays happen. You know, if this game were to go on to the point where every base was mined out, Leenock has a base up on HuK because he started at HuK's gold.
Yeah.
HuK will never be able to mine gold resources in this game, and the roach pressure is just simply not going to stop.
And all those sentries at the front going down. GG, game number 1 goes to Leenock. What a wild play out of him to start the tournament.
You know, I've seen Leenock do some crazy stuff in some of the matches I was able to catch that he played, I think, recently at the MLG Anaheim Open Bracket. Was not afraid to really get down and dirty with his proxy hatcheries and his fast spawning pools. So Leenock, someone that can catch you off guard. HuK, I like his defense if it's, you know, the cat style spine crawler rush. Then your photon cannons keep everything away. You're totally safe. But in this game, all it did was delay HuK's gateways, potentially him taking any additional gas, building probes, and it put him in an awkward position. And I think he's going to be glad not to be playing on that map because map number 2 will be King Sejong Station. And versus somebody like Leenock, you want to avoid the maps where the tricky plays work well. Maps like merry-go-round, maps like overgrowth. It feels weird to say overgrowth, but it's that gold base that really acts as a big trigger. I'd say Foxtrot Labs might be one of the ones that you never want to play on because of that.
Yeah, that's entirely true. You're right. All right, so game number 2, as you mentioned, King Sejong Station here. Very, very likely we're going to see a completely different play come out of Leenock on this map. But HuK tried to hold on valiantly during that game. Again, we mentioned the composition. We were going into in depth of like, okay, the Zealots would do quite a lot if he was burrowing through to try and get to the Immortals. Of course he wants to get to the Immortals. But unfortunately, as much as HuK was battling against that well, his trades just didn't work out. Like because of how powerful the economy was for Leenock behind that. But also, interestingly, if HuK had kept holding on, I think Leenock would have been in a bit of an odd spot because he didn't really have gases at his natural, back at home. He didn't have that many drones back there either. But in the end, the timer ran out for HuK.
Yep, definitely a tricky situation to be placed in as we load into map number 2 here of our very first match of the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto. So many people here to watch us for the first series. It's quite awesome, Caleres.
Yes, it is. Canada's turned out in full force already here on day number 1. And without further ado, let's introduce our Canadian. Down to the bottom right-hand corner. Needs to win this game to stay in the upper bracket here in the open bracket. It is EG's HuK.
Certainly rough start, but this is a map where his opponent, I think, really shouldn't have too much opportunities to get as crazy as he did on the last map. But he is here. He's looking for a very deep run in this tournament. He is looking for some prize money. Our Red Zerg player from Korea playing for Yoey Flash Wolves. He is Leenock.
The Leenock bus. Wait, Catalina was in the map pool, right? If we get to see the Lean Octopus on Catalina with the octopus in the middle, I think I will be the happiest man alive.
That's disturbingly fitting.
Yeah, it's
if
great.
only there were minerals at the octopus, and he could just take his first base there.
He's like morally obliged to because he is the Lean Octopus.
I mean, you just got to make it fit with the lore at this point.
The lore.
HuK's going to open up with a Forge once again. This Overlord barely catches a peek. Of course, in a match like this with so much at stake, a player like Leenock generally is going to pick up on things like this. He might send another drone down very early, and he does because he wants to go for a hatch first. He's basically saying, I don't think you can cannon rush me as long as I'm prepared for it.
Yeah, smartly puts his drone in rally in that position because if you do put a pylon there, it blocks off 2 entryways near that Vespene geyser. So smart play already by Leenock to try and block this out, but HuK is going to go for it anyway. And because the drone is away there for a second, goes out.
HuK is sending out a second probe too, so this is really signaling that he wants to keep the one probe baiting the drones around, move the second one in and place the cannons, but so many drones being pulled down by Leenock. Of course, this is hurting Leenock's income since he's not able to have as many workers mining, but this is still going to be a tricky cannon rush to pull off.
Yes, it is. Actually building it in front of the minerals as well here, so really committing to this as more drones come off the line. He did see the second probe actually coming along as well to continue this on, but if the drones keep working on these cannons, there is the opportunity here for Leenock to completely deny it.
The cannons behind the mineral line, while these drones are working on those, HuK is actually on a really nice blockade. However, he doesn't have to worry about one of these pylons. He needs to rebuild the pylon. Okay, there it is in the mineral line. So the hatchery is going to finish. Leenock, is he going to cancel it? No.
All right.
He thinks he can defend this somehow. That's a lot of cannons, Kalaris.
That is a lot of cannons. The pylon at the back is gone, so these cannons won't be shooting anything. Drones are trapped, though. Drones are trapped. That pylon is finished. He is going to get a few kills here.
Yeah, that's 5 drones stuck. I think even a 6th one with the other one. So HuK is guaranteed a ton of worker kills against Leenock in Game 2. Now he's going to cancel the extra cannons, and I love this. He just rebuilds the pylon because, of course, the one that he has very close to the hatchery is weak. The broodlings might be able to kill it once the hatchery dies, and HuK just wants to keep this base locked down. Leenock has 2 Zerglings going across the map. He's actually pulled drones to HuK's base. I didn't even... when did this happen?
I don't know, man, but that was an extremely impressive cannon rush there by HuK. Very, very well done. And whilst all of this is going, at least he loses the hatchery as well. This is big investment lost by Leenock, and all of this is being pushed away. These 3 drones weren't mining for ages. He's lost a lot of income to HuK's ingenuity.
Yeah, definitely a weird start for Leenock, to say the least. 2 Zerglings are going to slip in to the main base, but just 2 Zerglings really won't be able to... You're not going to win fisticuffs battle against 20 probes here. And still just on 1 base, Leenock's, well, got to build a couple more drones, but I'm not sure what you do in this situation. Every probe he kills here, though, is really important.
I like what you say. I'm not sure what to do in this situation because it's not really a situation you see people in too often. So already a bit of a wacky start here to the tournament. But, you know, cannon rushes are common. It's just that HuK was able to pull that off very, very well, very strongly. And for now, Leenock's just, he's only got his spine. Oh, he's making a hatchery down at the very south.
Leenock just, he's like, man, I just do not. So guys, all I want to do is just build bases in places that I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
Is that really too much to ask? And I'm not sure how aggressive you get off of a hatchery there. I mean, these Zerglings are doing some work, though.
I mean, yeah, HuK right now is locked down at the front of his base with 1 cannon. He needs to anticipate what's going on here because, again, the aggressiveness is going to happen, one would think. What else is he going to do?
I can't get my eyes off this hatchery, man. I'm not entirely... I guess if he tries to build spines here, but it's not the same as the last map. There's no extra minerals there. You're not mining more, you're just avoiding the cannons. And you can do that at your own base.
I mean, with the gas he has now going down, I can only assume this is going to be quicker roaches than the last game. That's kind of my thought process from this.
So it becomes a proxy roach rush as a response to the cannons? I don't know. This is a very weird game. Like you said, this situation does... This is not your average StarCraft 2 Protoss versus Zerg match. Let's just say that. And these 2 Zerglings have forced a lot of mining time to be lost. They've only killed a single probe by their own hands, but they've still been pretty damn annoying.
Yeah, just running on around. It makes it a little bit annoying for HuK in the end. It does disrupt him slightly. He's always having to worry about, are they chewing away at a probe? There's the Roach Warren behind this now. So it really feels like Leenock is going to be going into something like that. Well, that poor little Zergling. He could have kept running around for a little bit until Stalk was out.
Yeah, well, finally puts an end to that madness. And HuK actually, did he see that was canceled? That's a really important read for him. According to his vision, there's still something building there. I really like, of course, that he sends the probe back in to try to get a follow-up scout. He doesn't see that the lair started, which is, I think, also very important. You know that your opponent's on one base. There's not really much you're going to do. Well, he has spotted the creep at his third. I think HuK's realized that probably doesn't belong there.
Yeah, all in all now, HuK is just preparing himself. He's already throwing down extra cannons, but because of the way this is now played out, with the cancelled Roach Warren, it's a little bit of an odd mind game here from Leenock, who's transitioning into something more. So, I mean, what are the options do you feel from here for Leenock in this odd situation?
I mean, without a Nidus or Overlord drops, a couple cannons at the front with a sentry or two generally holds off any 1 or 2 base all-in that most Zerg players can bring. Unless he gets a Baneling Nest and just goes completely nuts and HuK misses his force field, which is something that HuK is not known to do.
Well,
there's the Nidus.
Yep, there's the Nidus.
I asked for it. It's coming.
And a lot of Lings on the way as well. There's an Overlord on the right-hand side of the base. So this is going to be the position that we're going to see it go down. Right now, HuK has no vision of this location whatsoever.
It's a good blind spot to go for. I mean, the important thing, though, is that as the next minute goes by, HuK...
And
he sees that Overlord.
All in all, he may not even check there because he's expecting a push from the front, right? After what he's seen, after the Roach is there at the back. And
Leenock just does not play normal StarCraft. He's like, I want to do Chris up all these sentries. Okay, they see the Overlord. This is a very important denial of vision because there's nothing else here that can see up into the main base of HuK. This means no Nidus, and if you're attacking just at the front, the only thing he can do now, I think, is with the infestation pit that he's building, try to just siege up with swarm hosts. But even photon cannons can do the trick in that situation.
Yeah, they should be able to hold on okay. He's got a few units as well as HuK. He is up in terms of supply compared to his opponent.
Spine's on the way. He has a lot of Zerglings back home.
So Leenock is basically saying, right, it's Spines, Swarm Hosts, contain for quite a while, and try and play some normal game. No, you're never going to get to a normal game at this point, never mind.
Okay, he's going to build a Nidus in his own base so that he can reinforce faster.
That's pretty cool.
That's the least aggressive use you're going to see out of one. These queens get caught, though, have to transfuse each other. They will not be able to get anything. A really nice grab for HuK, as it's going to delay the creep spread of his opponent as well. And as the madness begins, I like this position for HuK a lot because he's getting his tech up, and this is map, because he has pylons in his opponent's base. There's always like this weird potential that he could almost kill him. Like those Zealots, they have +1 attack. They're going to destroy these Zerglings if they get in a head-on engagement.
Yeah, and I wonder if he's actually spotted all of the Zealots warped in, because right now he's positioned at the front. I guess that... Oh yeah, okay, now we see at least.
But these Zealots are enough on their own to force a couple of Swarm Hosts to come back to defend this.
Yeah, something has to stay, that's for sure. Unless he wants to start building like static D in his main base, but I mean the static defense at the front is already being broken.
Yeah, he's being attacked in his main base at the same time. So HuK's saying, okay, you can get off my front line now. The Swarm Hosts, yeah, they do great versus the Zealots. The Locusts, they kill them very fast, but the Zerglings still die, and there's nothing else for Leenock. HuK ties the series up 1-1.
All right, I can dig it.
Not bad, you know. HuK plays on the North American ladder a lot, so you see crazy builds a lot, and definitely just with the cannon rush, it's a cool play to see. Leenock may have been preparing to do something crazy like this either way. Maybe he likes to go for a Nidus play on this map, because honestly, with the way that I've seen the games I've seen of him recently, he's just a madman these days.
Yeah, he is truly mad when it comes to these games. But anyway, we're getting into game number 3 in just a second. Catalina actually will be our next map in this best of 3. So we do get to see the Leenock Octopus in his natural habitat.
Yep, definitely going to be, I think, when you look at the layout of the bases, you get a little bit of a merry-go-round feel, but it's just much bigger. There's a lot longer rush distance if you're worried about things like early spawning pools. Generally not that good on this map. HuK is also a player, since he's been opening up with the Forge. He could have a cannon out very early to defend, and if he doesn't open up with the Forge, I expect to see him open with a Gateway, which will also give him a lot of versatility. He's preferred the Gateway build, the Gateway opening a lot in some of the matches that I've seen of him recently. And I feel like cheesing HuK just isn't quite going to cut it. That first game, he was really thrown off, mostly because his opponent took his gold and then kind of played standard-ish.
Yeah, you're right. I think if we're gonna, I mean, I jinxed it going from game 1 to game 2, and I was like, oh no, we're not gonna see anything bizarre. It's fine. But into game 3 now, maybe a standard game. I mean, Leenock's standard games, are nothing to sniff at. He can do it, and very, very well, very, very meticulously. So HuK here does have to be careful. but tying it up, going 1-1. I think HuK already has shown that he's not easily going to keel over.
No, definitely not. HuK, we kind of talked about it before the match started. Is Protoss versus Zerg is one of the matchups I would favor him the most in. I really like we saw in his control those force fields, picking off a couple of units here and there, and then. I mean, if you can kind of give the cannon rush as a bit of a one-off, but at the same hand, that proxy hatchery build is a one-off for Leenock. You know, if you discount the cannon rush, you have to discount the proxy hatch because we have not yet seen a standard 2-base Protoss with a late third versus a fast 3 hatchery Zerg. And this could very well be that game, but I have a strange feeling the madness will not end here.
I don't think so either. Well, we'll have to find out as we now get into game number 3 here of the opening series of the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto. Up to the top right-hand corner, we have our blue Protoss. Representing evil geniuses, it's HuK.
Of course, always nice to be able to fight in your home country. As he would love to be able to move on and show you guys some great games. He's tied 1-1 with a phenomenal Korean Zerg player in the bottom right. Yoey Flash Wolves, Leenock.
Bringing some excitement already here to the Intel Extreme Masters. But HuK can do this. I mean, right now, Pylon is geared up for a gateway expand. Could technically hide Forge if he wanted to and like start going around the map very quickly, but that would be interesting.
You start to you're starting to provoke my inner cheesy Protoss, man.
Yeah.
This sounds like a really great strategy to lose very quickly with.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think there's any real need for HuK to do anything crazy because worst comes to worst, HuK plays a standard game versus Leenock where I like HuK's PvZ a lot, and I'd say he has, at the very least, a solid chance of winning. I wouldn't favor Leenock too much over him to the point where I'd say HuK can't win. And best case scenario, he plays standard, Leenock does something crazy, and all he has to do is survive. That's one of the best feelings when you're playing with a standard build, because if your opponent does anything tricky, you're almost always ahead if they don't kill you with it.
Yeah, no, you're right. So far standard from Leenock, going for hatchery first. It's going to be Nexus first for HuK off the back of this. So very, very greedy opener. This is going to be seen very early here by Leenock, though.
Yeah, I think Leenock's decision to go hatchery first gives him very few options as far as punishing this build goes, but we've seen this become increasingly popular over the course of the last year. The Nexus first into Gateway, which allows you to not only, of course, be greedy, but most Protoss players have found ways to hold off against Zerg aggression when you're doing these builds, because a lot of the maps getting bigger have forced Zergs to either take more time to get early links to your base, or the Zerg's just more likely to be greedy because they think you can't attack them quickly. So overall, I love this build for HuK. Puts him in a good spot. Leenock's response is, well, I'm just going to take another hatchery.
Yeah, no reason not to at this point. And HuK is, unfortunately for him, going to go out and spot that and be like, all right then. Oh, well. Because, I mean, to be honest with you, there's really nothing that can deny this probe from going from location number 2 to location number 3. And then Leenock now probably knows that this probe is going to have full intel.
Yeah, so this is looking like the most standard of sorts game that we'll be seeing. And I do like this to kick off our first match especially. This is a very important one. It's important to keep reminding you guys that because HuK, you know, he's a resident Canadian here. I know you got to go to the Intel Extreme Masters Shenzhen, where one of my favorites, I know Roddy's favorite Protoss, Jim, was playing on his home turf for one of the first times, and he had an incredible tournament run. And I feel like, you know, when you know that the crowd that's cheering is from the same place as you, gives you a little extra oomph when you're getting ready, getting psyched up for the games.
Yeah, I got to agree. I was actually one of the Jim doubters in Shenzhen, and then he decided to completely prove me wrong, which was so impressive on home soil. And HuK could keep on going through this open bracket. You got to remember, again, this is only the open bracket. The level of games that we're going to be seeing here today is only the open bracket to then get into the main tournament tomorrow onwards, which already has a ridiculous lineup anyway.
Yeah, I definitely think that's what most people are when you look at, you say, hey, when am I going to get to see Flash play? When am I going to get to see Zest? Of course, we have 2 Canadians already in the group stage. You guys are probably interested in seeing Scarlet and Masa. But so far, oh wow, there's some cheers. Apparently, the Canadians do like the players from Canada.
Wow, who would have guessed? The crowd guessed. Well done, guys, well done.
So HuK's going to follow this up with no tech just yet. He's going straight up to 3 gateways, now adding on a 4th and a 5th and a 6th. Now, Kalaris, there is not an Overlord reasonably close enough to spot this coming. Warp Gate's getting Chrono Boost. We're going to have a total of 7 gateways, and there's a probe on the left and a probe on the right.
The position he's actually going to launch this attack from on the left-hand side with that probe in the position is so hard here for Leenock to ever scout out because it's technically so far away from all the immediate attention of Leenock at the front of his base, in between those 2 bases. Very, very difficult. That sentry, though, throwing down a force field and not getting a Zergling on the other side of that force field was very good actually there by HuK.
Yep, the big important things that Leenock's looking for now. His Overlord is going in to check HuK's base. He sees 1 gateway. So far, he's seen a total of 3, but if he heads just a little bit further south, I mean, the whole bag of beans is going to be spilled right in front of him. Now, not even the sentries are being pulled to attack him because HuK is worried that Leenock might be throwing some Zerglings to the side, you know, trying to bait those sentries out.
And there is another pylon down to the left-hand side. That Overlord eventually would see, if it continues on the trajectory it was set to, it will see a few of those gateways and then check out the rest.
Let's talk about the ability for Leenock to defend the push coming from HuK.
Yeah.
He's not sure what's coming. He's building Spore Crawlers and getting a lair while not even having a Roach Warren or Zergling speed. This is the best situation that HuK could have asked for this big push. 16 Zerglings on the way, 24 Zerglings, but without upgrades, how are you supposed to fight against Zealots that can put themselves in mineral lines like this versus a 7 gateway assault?
This is going to be very, very difficult for him to deal with, as there's, again, as you said, there's no Roach Warren. He's only got slow links for so long. The Mothership Core did end up dying, which hurts a little bit during all of this, but still, Zealots, 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 nothing more.
There's so many Zealots with this attack. The 3rd base, he should be able to at the very least kill this. And now the Roach Warren has started. Zergling speed has started. Leenock's going to do everything that he can, utilizing all of his queens, but this is a rather absurd number of Zealots to have, and I'd like to see just a few Stalkers to help poke these retreating units. But it's just Zerglings right now. Just Zergling, Zergling, Zergling. And HuK is really forcing out a huge expenditure of larva by Leenock.
Yeah, these Zealots are already getting really good trades, working on that 3rd base as well as doing some damage here at the natural.
He's up 20 supply.
They shoot through everything almost.
Yeah, he's killing absolutely everything. Now the Zealots will finally be taken out, but another warp in comes. He's finished off the hatchery. He's even brought some sentries in, which, you know, even if they're not the highest damage output units, they can still control the board a bit better. He can force field out these Zerglings, and Leenock, he can't get a position on this army of HuK.
All in all, the Queens still surviving here, though. Have done a great deal against all of this. Metabolic Boost is about to finish. That will be a little bit of a changer. If those sentries somehow actually get assaulted here by Zerglings, which he's trying to, he knows that those might be a game changer during this because of the roaches that are about to come. Leenock is holding on okay during all of this aggression.
It's 12 Zealots and 5 sentries versus 7 Zerglings and 3 roaches. Now 8 more roaches are about to finish up, and there are now spine crawlers also being built. So Leenock, he's locking himself down on 2 bases. HuK's going to try to charge the ramp. He needs some force fields. He needs to pull in the queens.
Yeah, he does, especially get the ones with the energy. And he does get a lot of them there, pinning them in back. And he's going to work away with the Zealots. The Roaches on the left-hand side, trying to get on top of these sentries as well. Good transfuses by Leenock, but no, to keep those queens alive during all of this. There's a lot of Zealots still alive here. HuK is technically supply blocked, but that's a lot of damage coming out from him.
Yeah, he's killed a lot of forces, but the 2-base economy of Leenock remains intact. Killing the queens is a very big pickup because he can delay the inject, which means less production. The follow-up, HuK has already started his robotics facility in his forge. He's taken an additional gas, and Leenock, he started a burrow and roach speed. What HuK needs to do is just hold this counter push, because at this rate, even though there's 2 drones in the production tab, Leenock, he's either going to build roaches or he's going to take a 3rd base. Doing both and getting aggressive isn't going to work.
Yeah, I love this from HuK, to just say, well, okay, this has done quite a bit, but I don't think this is exactly the killing blow in this game. Retreating back against a Zerg that right now doesn't have the best economy, doesn't really have a whole lot. He doesn't even have gases in his main base to fuel this. It's only the natural, and he's trying to get his 3rd base up again, is Leenock, but if HuK gets enough Immortals out here, Leenock needs a better economy to hold this off.
Yep, Leenock steps up, kills 1 sentry, focuses down 2-3 sentries. Really nice play. So there's the first burrow. Now HuK cancels the Immortal he was building and immediately starts an Observer. He's starting to realize, okay, this is a really tough spot to be in. The Mothership Core is trying to help with this as well, but it's going to be very difficult to kill these roaches when they can just go underground.
Yeah, that's true. He needs to hold even further, saving some of the extra force fields he has here, pins those well, places those down very, very delicately, just to make sure that he's covering the whole ramp, as well as making sure that the roaches can't continue on. Really good force fields continue that as well, sealing those guys in, and the Stalkers will be able to even this out fine.
Yeah, kills another sentry though, so HuK left with just a single one and no force fields on it. Still a tough spot as far as the overall army goes, but if he can get a couple more sentries out, these Zealots have actually still been harassing. He's got one by the third base. He's picked off 2 of these Spine Crawlers that were moved to the low ground.
I mean, he denied the third again. This third has only just started once again here for Leenock, so his economy is still being slowed down whilst we're having more sentries on the way.
Look at this army that's coming out for HuK, man. This, you do not want to be a 2-base Zerg versus a 2-base Protoss. However, if he can catch the sentries, well, force fields, they're going to at least buy some time. Those Roaches would really like to get the sentries. They'll immediately pop up 1 sentry, 2 sentries killed. HuK's army is still very difficult to deal with.
Right now, this is looking difficult for Leenock. He has a lot more reinforcements on the way, but when the Observer comes along as well with a Time Warp, and now he's burrowing, but the Observer's right there. Bye-bye Roaches.
Oh, HuK's army looking really good right now. More spines being started up by Leenock, getting ready for this attack, but this push that's coming in Immortal, he does contaminate the robotics facility to prevent a follow-up, but this army by itself is looking to end this game. HuK, he's building some defensive cannons. He is ready to try to crush Leenock here. Moving up towards the ramp. Leenock's going to go for a counter. Now there is a wall complete. Those cannons are not done yet. The Immortal's not done yet. So I feel a base trade. I mean, if HuK gets up here before all these spines finish, he should have this in the bag.
Yeah, he has so much firepower at the front. These Zerglings and Roaches trying to break on through now, but HuK, at this point in time, all he has to do is defend, pushes up this ramp. The Spine Crawler's finished just in time to try and hold off, but there's still a lot of firepower. He's trying to defend the probes there. Zealous tanking a lot at the front. Those Immortals really want to get there. Just the one Immortal to break this wall down, and if he does, oh, that one Immortal also needs to keep alive. Needs to do a lot of work.
With the cannons repowered, HuK is able to defend it home with that Immortal. Some of these probes being pulled away, but this army is too strong. Canada cheering for HuK. GG! And the first match of the day here at the Intel Extreme Masters, our resident Canadian himself, HuK, is able to advance on.
All right, guys, we have a fighting guy on our hands right here. HuK, able to take the first victory. Give it up for your hometown hero, HuK.
A phenomenal series for sure. Really good to see him come out strong against Leenock. That showed us some pretty unorthodox, pretty crazy play, and definitely a comfortable win that gives you a lot of confidence moving forward.
Very, very good stuff there. HuK advancing through to the next round. Let's head over to the analysis couch for their thoughts.
Thank you very much. Yes, Nathanius there with his English accent occasionally. Joined, of course, by the wonderful Kalaris. And HuK is your winner, guys. Who predicted HuK would win?
Not with the right score, but I did.
You did. I just wanted to bring that up because Apollo's not with us right now. He's going to do some breakdown on the screen very shortly. But QXC is with us. Kevin, thoughts on the game? Did we really think that the hometown guy had a chance?
I mean, HuK's been playing so well and so not well recently.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to say. He's had some really good performances, and he's had some not so good performances.
That's very polite of you.
That's such a QXC answer.
But it looks like right now we're seeing one of his definitely on point, on form, and yeah, if he continues to exhibit that play, he can go quite far.
If that game taught us anything, and I'm not being nasty to Leenock here, it taught us that scouting is very important.
Yeah, man. I mean, StarCraft.
Apollo 2014. You need to scout in StarCraft 2 to win games.
Sometimes.
He actually did say that in the pre-match. He actually said it's going to come down to whether Leenock can be bothered to scout what HuK's doing. And he couldn't in that game 3.
Well, he
On this
tried.
map, it's tricky.
Yeah, he
It's
tried.
very tricky.
You know what was really interesting is where HuK put those gateways. He knew where Leenock's overlords were, and the hardest place for Leenock to scout was right above that cliff outside of HuK's third. And it's so weird because as a Terran player, I see 4 gateways go up there. I'm like, oh, you know, my Reaper's going to jump up and see those, and that's no big deal. But as a Zerg player, the Overlord was coming from above HuK's first Nexus, and there was an Overlord planet at his natural. That is just not a place that Overlords can get to very easily.
Todd, thoughts? HuK winning? He plays Jadong, by the way, in the next round.
Yeah, you know.
Never gets any easier for him, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't. But, you know, as I said, he's doing well against Zerg, and I feel like he didn't even show us everything. I mean, he showed us a cannon rush and a 7-gate, which is the good old HuK that we know. But as I said, he has some very, very strong macro game that he's got to feature and show in a lot of his previous games in some of the recent tournaments. So he's got that saved up. If somehow, you know, the game doesn't end early against Jadong, he could show us some of that. And he's going to be up against somebody who's also himself very good in the late game. So I hope we get to see some more of that. But yeah, pretty impressive series, mind games. And all that, you know, after slow starts, the first game was a little bit disappointing on HuK's end.
Yeah,
He
kinda
saw the
just
hatch
got-
on the gold, and he's like, wow, I played cats many times. I know what this is. Except, no, it wasn't.
He put down those cannons right away and started he had the probe patrolling above those rocks. He's like, when these spine crawlers come up this destructible area, I am going to kill them, and it's going to be easy. And Leenock was like, no, I'm actually just going to make 50 roaches.
He even killed the debris himself. He opened the gates for the roaches. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you make of the first two maps? I mean, in particular, the second game.
Yeah, so we just talked
Yeah.
about the first one. The second one was basically, like Todd said, cannon rush. Like, Leenock went into full crisis mode because he kind of had the worst of both worlds. He went hatch first and got cannon rush, and he pulled some drones, and he didn't succeed in defending the cannon rush, and he also lost like 6 drones trying to do so. So he had cannons in his natural and a super weak economy, and then he just, put down the hatchery and went Nidus Swarm
I mean,
or whatever.
I was going to say, is there anything else? Would you have done anything differently if you'd been playing in his position? No, I just was kind of
Well,
like
so the big thing is like, if the cannons are going to go up in your natural, you need to have a strong economy to make whatever other play you're going to do actually work.
Yeah.
And if you're really committing to not letting the cannons go up, you really need to commit even harder to not let the cannons go up. Like, if you're going to pull 6 drones, lose a couple of them, and the cannons go up, like, it's the worst of everything. If he ignores the cannons completely and does some, like, weird, I'm thinking, like, cats type play here, then that's one thing. Or if he pulls, like, even more drones, and even if he loses a lot of mining time, he, like, 100% does not let those cannons get up, then at least he's got an edge to his play.
he's got something left.
Right.
And Todd, you're laughing. Come on. Why?
Todd's
I can
listening
hear
to
the Terran struggling.
Exactly. The Protoss in the corner there is smiling away because he knows that was a no-win situation no matter what happened with the Zerg.
Yeah. Once the cannons were up and the drones were down, I mean...
Yeah, but that decision of going for a cannon rush on this map, I have to wonder, did he think it was the best thing to do? Or maybe was he on a little bit of a tilt after the first game? Because it's a funny situation in the sense that
Well, we'll
just
ask
had...
him in a minute. We'll ask him that.
Yeah.
That would be one of those things.
We had a Korean Zerg take on a Canadian Protoss in both matches on the corner of that bracket because Bones took on Jaedong and Jaedong won that. So now, I guess it's the ultimate fight, the winner, the Protoss Canadian versus the Korean Zerg. And if those players want to prepare a little bit better, they can ask also, like, HuK could probably go to Bones and ask him, hey, how did it go?
Yeah.
Same thing for Jaedong.
Yeah.
In which case, he would know that if he wins the first game, he needs to look out for a cannon rush in the second game, be extra careful about it. So that's a very interesting situation that we have here.
Indeed. All right. We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we will have an interview with your winner, HuK, winning our opening game here at the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto. Right, we've done some TV magic for you, and the winner of our opening game is with us on the couch. Joining Kevin and I is HuK. How you doing?
Good, considering I just won, I guess.
I was going to say, it must be. That was the obvious troll question of
Yeah.
how are you feeling right now?
How do you feel after you just defeated Leenock 2-1
Great.
on stage
Great.
in your home country?
Great.
Yeah?
Yep. In
Wow.
front of my dad and uncle, too, actually.
Your
There's
dad and
somewhere.
uncle are here watching. That's fantastic. Hi, dad and uncle.
Hello.
Hi. Brilliant.
And the other
HuK's
guy.
dad and
I don't know
uncle,
that guy.
everyone. Look at that. That's brilliant. I like the fact that you've got family support. I don't think I would have ever had my parents come along to an esports tournament, unfortunately, to watch me play anyway, that's for sure. Let's get back to the game. The question from Todd was very interesting. He said he wondered whether you were on tilt second game after the first one not going your way, and did you just go, oh, to hell with this, I'm just going to do something crazy?
No, I watched his replays, I studied him. I knew he liked to open hatch first very often. I was expecting him to do it on Overgrowth, but since he didn't do it, after I lost the first game pretty hard, he pretty much destroyed me. I was like, kind of in that moment where you're like, as a player, deciding, do I do what I've been planning to do, or do I like just cancel everything because he's changing up his play? But luckily, I stuck with the Forge and Cannon Rush, and it worked out.
Yeah, definitely.
It's pretty great. And the fact that you've won this game and it started we have already called it the most stacked Intel Extreme Masters I think we've ever had in history in StarCraft, and you're in the game. you're in there now. It's the semi-finals. You're one match away from playing in that. How do you approach that in your mind? Are you just taking each game as they come, not worried about how you qualify and all the rest of it?
Me personally, I get really nervous, and I play worse the more excited I get or the more nervous. So I just try to stay calm, not think about anything, just like stay zombie mode, I guess, and just approach it one game at a time.
How are you able to block out the crowd with that as well? Being its hometown, it must be great playing on Canadian soil.
It's good and bad. I get more nervous because family's here, Canadian crowd, but at the same time, I'm glad that people are cheering for me, and I'm really happy that they're willing to cheer for me, I guess.
Does it change, not maybe how you play, but how well you play? Because it seems odd that whenever we visit different countries, the hometown player somehow lifts their game. They're not playing any differently as such. They're not really taking anything different tactically to the game, but there's some intangible reason as to why they pick up that. Is that happening to you here already?
I think it's too early to say, but I hope I do well.
Yeah.
It would be the first time that I think I've done really well in a big tournament in Canada, so hopefully we'll see.
Yeah, you've had a decent year by the standards of the last couple of years, which have been a bit rough in places. I know I'm trying to be mean here,
That's okay.
But this year you've won a couple of the minor tournaments on lands. You've been to lands and won. You top 4 at Red Bull Atlanta. What's changed this year for you?
Just really playing more. I kind of slacked off for a year or two, and that's pretty much it. I'm just playing more now. I'm not playing as much as I did when I first got into StarCraft 2, so and I'm not in Korea, so that's kind of had some hurting too. But in general, I'm playing more lately, so I'm doing better.
Okay. Kevin, you got any questions about the game? Anything tactically you want to talk about?
Well, so you said you already prepared for Leenock. I mean, obviously you knew your opponent ahead of time. How far into the bracket did you predict and prepare?
Can't really say.
Okay.
Because I mean, I don't know if someone's listening.
They might be watching. That's fair.
Yeah.
You feel confident going into the next match?
No, of course
Nope,
not.
not at all?
Jaedong's really good. I mean, I think I have a good chance, but I don't think I'm going to like destroy him or anything.
And presumably you've done your homework. I know that you do your homework. So you've seen the games that he played at the last tournament in Red Bull. It was only a week ago. And they weren't great by Jaedong standards. So do you learn something from that, or does that not give you anything?
Did he play?
I don't think he
Protoss?
No, I don't think he played a Protoss.
He didn't.
So, but I watched.
I'm saying that's why. Because does it make you've seen him play? Can you pick anything about the way he plays certain maps, even if it's against different races? It's something, right? I mean, how do you get anything out of that if he hasn't played a Protoss? I guess that's probably the better way.
You just
of
don't.
questioning
There's
it.
just nothing.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
You look at the tournament, you're like, Jaedong did not play a Protoss.
All right. Okay. Let me ask a different question. HuK, was that a stupid question?
I like you, so no. Okay. It's not a stupid question, but
I like that. Thank you. HuK saved me from a terrible question. Have you got any less terrible questions, Kevin?
I'm trying so hard not to troll you right now, and
It's fine. This is the troll area.
I don't have any real questions
that,
now. So Jaedong played a ZVZ at Red Bull. How does that help you?
bad question, Kevin.
That's all I got.
What the hell are you thinking?
I'm sorry.
See, that was a terrible question, HuK, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was horrible.
Awful.
Your question was good.
How about
though.
this? How about this?
Right,
I got
exactly.
a real question for you.
Okay.
On Catalina, if the Overlord had come in from like your third and actually seen those gateways, would you still have gone for the attack, or do you have kind of like a contingency plan?
It would depend how early it saw it. If he saw it, like if he was smart to begin with, he would have scouted them and then just pulled the Overlord back and not let me know
revealed.
that he knew.
Right. So then you're warping in units and he has
Crushes
the army.
it and then I lose. Yeah. I just think it's not a. They want to get their second Overlord at the ramp.
Right, so
on
they
that
can
cliff,
see your
see the
move out.
gases, see the warp gate, and the other Overlords at the top. So logically, that place was the best spot to put the gateways.
So when you do, like, just with those specific positions, did you also, I wasn't watching the game super closely, were you using your Mothership Core or your Zealot to check to see if there was the third Overlord coming up that path? Or do you just kind of assume, like, the third Overlord's not going to
It's generally not going to go, like, straight through the map. So I'm only worried about those first two Overlords, and as soon as I saw the second one at my natural, I was pretty happy, and I knew where to put my gateways.
Okay.
Right.
Catalina's a big map, too, so.
Yep.
All right, we're going to leave it there. We have to move on. We have our second match of the day coming up very shortly. Thank you very much to HuK and to Kevin for joining us. We're going to have a quick break, but when we come back, we have our second game. Our second game of the day, ladies and gents, hold on to your chairs right now, is Snoot versus CJ Hero. We'll see you in a few.